Okay, and what is your name?
Dr.Niasse, Director of the Secretary of the International Land Coalition.
And what does the International Land Coalition do?
It's a coalition of intergovernmental and civil society organizations that has been established 15 years ago to promote secure access to land for the rural poor.
And which countries or parts of the world are you working in?
We are covering probably about 50 countries. We have 152 member organizations, including 40 member organizations in Asia and 5 in Nepal.
And how do you, are you coordinating then those different organizations and their land rights kind of policies, or how do you work on the ground?
On the ground, we work generally through creating platforms for dialogue and consultations. We support our members to engage in dialogue and consultations with the aim of influencing land policy, reform, formulation, and implementation. We also support our members in knowledge generation and sharing, with understanding that availability of high quality evidence can empower the dialogue process and push it toward solutions to our dialogue that is solution oriented. We also build capacity among our members through exchanges, etc. As part of that, we also have a number of learning events in which we invite our members to have exposure on the ground or to exchange among themselves experiences. It's part of that we here.
So in Nepal, there are land reform policies, but the implementation is lacking. Do you find that this is common amongst other countries as well?
You should recognize that land reform processes are very complex. My own country, which is Senegal, we had a land law which dates back of 1964, needs a lot of updating in various segments. All actors recognize it, but in the last almost more than 50 years, we will not manage to have that happen. You can mention a number of other countries that are struggling. I think in Nepal, the additional challenge is there are many. One of them is the country is in the political transition, which is not completed. And the land, it in fact derives from a broad architecture, which is the constitution, which is a stable governance from which you have a land which is implemented. So the land reform is very hard to have it to precede the establishment of that broader national architecture. That's only one element. I think the second element is probably the fact that in Nepal, everybody recognizes almost the need for some kind of redistribution to address inequalities. It is in the context where the state doesn't have enough land to distribute. So the state counts on taking land from the big landowners. What is the mechanism to do that? That is really not a simple question. So that is understandable, therefore, that the process is slow. Another element probably which I have noted is probably that the discussion tend to be highly ideological. Where people will mention their ideological positioning before talking about what needs to be addressed. If we say that what are the problems and then what are the solutions, that will be another way of maybe reaching an easier solution.
Which countries, in your experience, are further ahead in land reform?
It's very hard to just mention a model in terms of land reform processes. Many countries are making progress in some areas and not in others. Some countries can move very fast without having a number of elements being addressed. We have a number of countries in Africa, etc., that are doing comprehensive land titling. I don't want to make any because if I mention any, it tended to be mentioned as a model.
Yeah,
sure. In fact, if you dig deep, you will see a lot of imperfections. So that's the reason why people will just have to mention very old experiences in Japan, in Taiwan, in South Korea, to mention, but that is because of all the recent experiences, they have a lot of deficiencies.
Do you find that, in general, land rights movements start from the ground, or are there cases where governments have actually started land reform on their own?
In fact, in most cases, that is what happened, because because when you say land, because you have a number of aspects. One aspect, as I try to mention, is the land administration part, which is it's complex, but that is a way of securing existing rights. So you are not challenging the order. You just formalize, you regularize existing rights. If that is the case, you can. It's more technical response to it. Although there are some challenges that are more politically, like for example, when you give land to a group or an individual, while the land belongs to a broader constituency, you may create some tension, but it's to a large extent technical. While the land redistribution, giving land to those who did not have land, or giving more land to those who have very tiny plots, this is becoming a lot more political. It needs some authority in many cases. When you talk about authority, that means that the more you have an authority as a central power deciding, the less civil society margin you have, space. Historically, where you have all this land reform experience people are mentioning, it was done through rather authoritarian regimes. The challenges of now, in the current context, where you have democratic systems, is in fact that the government does not have, or does not even want, to exercise the type of authoritarian leadership we have experienced in the past. That is where you need to build a consensus, where when the decision is taken, the decision is broadly accepted. So that is the challenge. That's where you need now a civil society. You need social movement to participate in the education of the people, of the actors. And that is where probably we also need to support organizations such as CSRC to participate in this awareness raising, so that when a decision is taken, there will be losers and gainers, but it will be more easily acceptable to all.
Thank you very much.